Welcome to AppStories, a Mac Stories podcast all about the world of apps. Today's episode is sponsored by 1Password, and I'm John Voorhees. And of course, with me is my co-host, Federico Viticci. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing really well. This is a little bit different setup than usual. I'm usually sitting at my desk at home, in my home office, recording a podcast. And here I am looking at you on a monitor with cameras in front of me and lights because Apple was kind enough to invite us to come to the Apple Podcast Studio here at WWDC for a very special episode. We'll be talking to some developers and some other people later on today. But yeah, I want to first start off by just thanking the people behind the scenes who have worked so hard to make this possible here at Apple Park. It's really great to be here, and we're gonna kick things off by talking to Devin Davies, who's the developer of Crouton. Welcome to the show, Devin.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's really great to have you. I mean, Crouton is an app that we've covered on Mac Stories multiple times before, and it's a recipe app. I'll let you talk a little bit more about it in a moment, but you won an Apple Design Award this year, so congratulations to you for that. It's really great to see a developer like yourself, who's a solo developer, win that award. It really kind of warms our Mac Stories hearts to see that. But for the people who maybe aren't as familiar with your app, could you explain a little bit about what it's all about?
Totally. So Crouton is the safe place for all of your recipes from wherever you might find them. So websites, cookbooks, handwritten note from your grandma. And once you've got your recipes in Crouton, then it's very easy to do your meal planning, grocery lists. But I really think that the key thing is trying to make it easy to cook in the kitchen and keep focus on what you need to know in the moment rather than like I do, get flustered with all the different things you need to keep track of.
And Mac Stories, Devin, I do love a good backstory. So can you tell us how Crouton came like, how did it come to be? Where did the idea come from? And I just want to know the backstory.
Sure. I've always loved cooking, just sort of home cooking, cooking dinner most nights. And so when I got married, I started doing the meal planning and all of that at the start of the week, and was using the Apple Notes app for a long time, just the days at the top, Monday through Sunday, and then a huge list of recipe links underneath. And that got longer and longer and eventually a bit out of hand. And at the same time, I started learning iOS development at my day job. And so one Saturday afternoon, I think I just thought, I could, maybe I could make this a bit easier for myself. And so built out a very simple version. And then over time, that's just sort of grown and grown to where we are now.
All right. Well, you won the ADA for interaction. And I have to imagine that one of the things that caught Apple's eye about Crouton was your implementation of the app for the Vision Pro. And could you explain a little bit about what you're doing there? Because I think it's very unique. I haven't seen very many apps doing things similar to what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. So when Vision Pro was announced at WWDC last year, I was very excited about the potential opportunities. I've got some hands-free modes on the iPad app, but then with Vision Pro, it's inherently hands-free by nature. So I was excited about being able to take some of those things and reimagine them in sort of the spatial environment around. And so, in Crouton on Vision Pro, you can do things like start timers and place them over your pots and things. There's also a size guide. So for me, in a recipe, when it says, get a 12 by 12 inch tray, that's quite hard for me to imagine how big that is. But with Crouton on Vision Pro, you can just tap on the measurement and then it will display in front of you sort of how big that is visually.
Okay, that's really cool. And I know that at the keynote, there were some new developer tools for things like volumetric type stuff. Was that something that interests you for that? Would that work with that feature that you've got in Crouton, do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things interesting this year to dig into. There's also some object tracking, which I'm excited to see if there's some things I could do there too.
So what else do you think you could incorporate into Crouton that was announced this year?
So with object tracking, you can obviously, you can recognize particular objects now or train to recognize objects, and then you can attach sort of UI to those in your physical space. And I think there's a few more things around attaching to like surfaces that might be a bit easier.
And I've done the thing where I tried cooking with my Vision Pro, like while wearing the Vision Pro and like cooking pasta while having the Vision Pro on. And I have used Crouton while doing that, and I think there's something so futuristic about just taking a timer and putting it right there on the next to the kitchen stove, and I don't know, it felt both kind of ridiculous and awesome at the same time. I was also by myself, I wouldn't do it in front of my family, but have you heard from other people that have actually done the same? Or follow-up question, do you do the same?
I've definitely had feedback from people that have tried it once, or people that use it regularly. I think there's definitely a scale. I think it's exciting that we're obviously on a journey here with Vision Pro. And so it's exciting that we can build these things now that as we go on, they're going to get better and better. And so that's part of why I've enjoyed getting in, sort of being there at launch and able to sort of build that out. And for me, I have tried it. It's not something that I do regularly. I've got a family. And so I think, I would rather avoid those looks every night of, what is dad doing in the kitchen?
Right. I can imagine. Another journey that I think developers are about to embark on is Apple Intelligence, because that was obviously a very big part of this year's keynote. And I know there have been a lot of sessions about it. Where do you see that fitting in with Crouton potentially down the road?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity. Admittedly, I've been very caught up in the excitement of the design award and all of that. So I've got a lot of digging to do over the next few weeks to see how I might be able to make best use of it now and think about long-term planning. But I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity to help pull recipes into Crouton, and then also hopefully some smart ways to be able to make things like meal planning much faster and enjoyable.
Wow, and I would imagine that just, and I think you already do this to an extent, but just using the app intents framework, right? And sort of exposing more of Crouton's functionality, whether it's widgets or shortcut actions. And that's going to play even a bigger role in the future. I would imagine that that's something you're looking at right now.
Absolutely. And I think with Apple's platforms, it's great that when you invest in things like App Intents, then when Apple Intelligence comes around, you're already ready to go in a lot of ways. And so it's great to be able to just get a head start on those just by making the most of the things that the platform offers at the time.
Yeah, that head start is really good. And I can imagine a lot of scenarios where that would be useful for Crouton, where you simply can speak in a natural language sentence, like, start these timers and give me a list of my ingredients or whatever it happens to be, to get you kind of jumpstart your cooking session and that kind of thing.
Definitely.
I mean, there's also people asking ChatGPT for recipe advice. So there's also that. The results may be questionable.
Yeah.
Spoken like a true Italian. But there's also that angle of folks relying on AI for advice. And I think, it can be an interesting use case for Crouton. I wanted to ask you, Devin, can you share a little about what you're working on next? Do you think you're going to have a busy summer? Like what do the next few months look like for you and Crouton?
Yeah, I'm going to have a very busy next few months. I think I already had a few sort of pieces underway. I'm working on some changes to the grocery list with auto categorization and using some machine learning there to help make that happen. And so I've got that to deliver, as well as everything new from WWDC. So I think it's going to be very busy a few months.
I want to follow up with one last question about Apple Intelligence and some of the generative image creation. Is that something, a lot of times when you download a recipe from the internet, it comes with a picture. You can incorporate that now with Crouton, but maybe it's like you said, you have a handwritten note from your grandmother and you've scanned that in, but you don't have an image and you haven't taken a picture yourself. Is that like something you're looking at potentially as a way to kind of add some imagery to recipes?
Yeah, I had the same thought actually, because Crouton definitely looks the best when you've got nice pictures for all of the recipes. And so if I can leverage that to make it look as pretty as possible, I'll definitely be adding that in.
Oh, definitely. Well, that sounds great. Well, Devin, I want to thank you for joining us. Congratulations again for winning the ADA. It's a really a big achievement, and Crouton's a fantastic app, and I can't wait to see what you're doing with it next.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. For our second interview today, we are speaking to Jasna and Katarina from Gentler Streak. Welcome to AppStories.
Hello.
It's good to see both of you. I want to talk to you a little bit about Gentler Streak and what makes it different from your typical fitness app, because it's an app that I've used for a couple of years now, and I've really fallen in love with it. It's one of the few apps that has made it on my home screen in the last couple of years that, I don't change my home screen that much, but Gentler Streak.
You sure?
I don't. Not with the core apps, Federico. And Gentler Streak made it on there right away, which is kind of a hard thing to do, I guess, in my life. But explain a little bit about what the app is all about, if you could.
It is essentially a health and fitness tracker. And what it tries to do, it tries to help you establish a sustainable fitness habit. So it's not a tracker that you would only use in January, those first days when you're super active.
Right.
But yeah, it's meant to be like a lifestyle helper.
Yeah,
not just a fitness tool.
Nice. Well, that to me is why it really stuck with me, because I think one mistake that a lot of fitness apps make is it's all about the streak, or it's all about the metrics and improving the metrics. But if you're not careful, you end up burning out, injuring yourself, whatever it is. So you really need to take into account what your body is doing and resting and all those things. And I feel like Gentler Streak really is focused on that. Has that been kind of one of your core concepts from the beginning?
Yes, totally. I couldn't describe it better. We had 2 burnouts on the team. So that was before we started working on the app. And we were just asking ourselves, is there a tool out there that will let you know the intensity of the workout exercise that your body is capable to do in a day, and when it's time to rest? And we couldn't find anything and something that would work for everyone. So no generic goals. So and couldn't find anything. So we got to work, and now here we are.
Yeah, great. Yeah, no, this is...
and I think it's interesting that sort of your idea has been validated this year by the introduction of rest days in even in the Apple Fitness app, right? I mean, it's the sort of concept that you've been building for the past few years, and now it's also part of the system. And so I kind of wanted to know how you feel about it, because hey, it must feel nice to to have that sort of recognition and feel like, hey, maybe we were onto something. In fact, with our concept.
Yes, totally. We feel that it's been long overdue. Including that into the native app. And for us, it's like, as you said, it's a huge recognition, and it's also Apple's voice is louder than ours. So I think it's going to do a lot for awareness, and then people are going to look for tools that they maybe do it on a deeper level, and that's then where we step in. Yeah, so it's definitely a nod that we are doing something right.
Right. And you incorporate a well-being concept into the app as well. It's not just about the exercise. It's also about kind of tracking various metrics in your body using the sleep tracking and all the data that the Apple Watch can collect at night. Could you explain a little bit about how that works?
We track sleeping heart rate, sleep duration, blood oxygen, wrist temperature, also period, which is also really important. And we calculate your normal values. And when your value is out of your normal range, we suggest you to take a rest.
Even if it would be, let's say, judging by the activity pad, it would seem like a great day to push hard. But if we see, okay, you only slept for 5 hours, we say, okay, maybe,
Yeah, I've been there.
I think we've all been there. Yeah, so we just try to have this holistic approach as much as possible via device.
Right.
We can't know everything that's going on in your life, but we can detect quite a few things, because the resting or sleeping heart rate metric is a great signal that something's going on in your body.
Yeah, no, I've definitely noticed that. I mean, for instance, I've noticed, like when I caught a cold or something, where I would notice that my, what you were tracking, I noticed even before I really felt really bad, that maybe my heart rate was up that night, or I didn't sleep super well, whatever it was. And that's actually really nice, because I may have gotten up, not felt terrible, and just went out and went for a run anyway. But I don't, because I say, well, maybe I should take it a little easier today. And that's a great service for the app, I think.
Excellent. Yes, that was our intent to help you be more aware of what's happening in your body, to maybe be more self-compassionate, because I think that's lacking out there. Everyone's just pushing you faster, higher, stronger. You're like the most proud of your best results. But what we should actually be proud of is, I think, of actions that support our body, instead of exhausting it for, I don't even know what for recognition on, I don't know, social media or...
Right. No, I think that's a very good point. And I think the graph really comes into this, because the graph gives you a sense for the trends more than the actual hard numbers in a particular day, which I like that, because really I'm exercising more for health reasons than I am for competition. And for me, that's a nice to see where the trend line is going and kind of keep it on a nice steady level, as opposed to having it swing wildly up and down or get too far out of whack, above where my capabilities are. I mean, could you explain a little bit how the graph works so that people can understand what that's all about?
Mm-hmm. We take into account 60 days of your workouts, all your heart rates, and we know exactly how hard your workout was. So we know what your base level is, fitness level. And so if your workout is too hard, we will let you know that it's time to take a rest because you're overreaching. And if you're slacking a little bit, then we will say it's time to move up.
Makes sense.
And for it, we use the trim algorithm, which is like the industry standard. So you see it in Strava, on Garmin, Polar, even Training Load that Apple introduced. That's basically the same thing. So we just took a different angle to it. Yeah.
It's actually a ratio between acute and chronic fatigue.
Got it.
Yeah.
Very nice. I wanted to ask you about Apple Intelligence, of course. And I kind of wanted to know, what do you think about it? And if you think AI will play a role somehow in Gentle Streak, how do you envision Apple Intelligence being useful in the app?
Yeah. I mean, we have to see we have to talk about it a little bit more, but I think we will integrate something. At least, I don't know, when you're playing with profile image, we will use, for example, photo playgrounds and writing tools for notes. So a little bit, yeah.
I think we have to get to the office first, to let all of this sink in a little.
Yeah.
And then we're going to use whatever makes sense. We're not going to force anything, but if we find the perfect use case for our scenario, we'll definitely go ahead with it. I will let you know, that's for sure.
No, right. Well, no, I appreciate it. Could you tell us what you have planned for Gentle Streak over the next few months? So you got any big plans coming over the summer?
We have to we will focus in the next couple of months to put more effort into sleeping metrics. So we will analyze, we will put more analytics of your sleeping data, and also period. And we will also introduce some new health metrics like sleep stress. And we will also have more personalized workout summaries. We will introduce photos and a nicer map and gear.
And you'll be able to favorite the workouts.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice.
Excellent.
John, maybe we should also put more effort into sleeping over the next few months.
I think especially
All of us.
the last few days have not been great. Well, I want to thank both of you for joining us today, and congratulations on the award. I mean, it's a big deal to win an ADA, and I know you were up for it last year as well, and you won this year, so that's a huge achievement. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
This episode of AppStories is brought to you by 1Password. In a perfect world, end users would only work on managed devices with IT-approved apps. But every day, employees use personal devices and unapproved apps that aren't protected by MDM, IAM, or any other security tool. There's a giant gap between the security tools we have and the way we actually work. 1Password calls it the Access Trust Gap. And they've also created the first ever solution to fill it. 1Password Extended Access Management secures every sign-in for every app on every device. It includes the password manager you know and love and the device trust solution you've probably heard of on this podcast back when it was called Collide. 1Password Extended Access Management cares about user experience and privacy, which means it can go places other tools can't, like personal and contractor devices. It ensures that every device is known and healthy and every login is protected. So stop trying to ban BYOD or shadow IT and start protecting them with 1Password Extended Access Management. Check it out today at onepassword.com/MacStoriesUnwind. That's onepassword.com/MacStoriesUnwind. Our thanks to 1Password for their support of the show. We are back for our third and final developer interview today. We are joined by the Procreate CEO, James Cuda, and CTO, Michael Shaw. Welcome to AppStories.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us.
So Procreate Dreams won an award for innovation this year, an ADA for innovation, so congratulations for that. It's a big achievement.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was a really nice win because, when we shipped Procreate Dreams, there's still so much more coming and we only see what's missing, So
sure, I can imagine.
It was really nicely received.
Well, that kind of leads me into my first question, which is, Procreate obviously has been kind of a cornerstone of iPad creativity for a very long time, but Dreams is a much newer app that maybe some people aren't as familiar with. Could you explain a little bit about what Dreams is about and how it kind of differs from Procreate itself?
Totally. So today people know Procreate for its creation of still visual art. But 5 years ago, we started this journey to try and bring images to life, 2D animation. We were probably naive when we started the project, I think, 5 years ago. We thought, how hard can it be? We're just going to animate something from point A to point B.
It's just a bunch of stills strung together.
Right, how hard? Well, I'm glad we went into it so naive because we had that energy to kind of power through stuff. But Procreate Dreams is kind of built so that, it's got hard-hitting features for professionals, but it's still easy enough to pick up if you're just starting out. So we're trying that same kind of recipe that we've had for Procreate over the years, where it's got all the features that the professional needs, but it's still designed in such a way that anyone can pick it up. Although it is a little bit different, of course, because with Procreate, when you mark the screen, you immediately know what the next step is. But with animation, it's a whole different ball game. And there's lots of heritage to that as well, with keyframing and timing and easing and stuff. So Procreate Dreams is a much bigger product, but it's built to give a new voice to storytellers.
And I would imagine that with the power of the latest iPad Pros, so with the M4 and of course with the Apple Pencil Pro, I imagine that must have unlocked a lot of potential in Dreams. And I kind of wanted to know from you what it's been like to work with the M4 iPad Pro and how you approached the Apple Pencil Pro in terms of what it enables the app to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's astonishing what Apple's doing with silicon these days. When the iPad first came out, it had the A4 chip, I think it was. And it's crazy to think now in 2024, we have a desktop class processor without a heatsink, without a fan, sitting in an iPad. For us, that really signals a massive change in that direction of the platform. But Michael, do you want to maybe talk a little bit about some of our integration work with the latest hardware?
Sure. I mean, anytime there's a new chip, there's always quite a leap. And in this case, we're seeing some of the effects 40 to 50% faster, which is quite stellar. The actual most surprising thing is we've been running it the last, I guess, only less than a month now, but I actually haven't seen it thermally throttle at all yet, which is very strange because we're very abusive of the hardware.
I can imagine.
Unapologetically.
Any core, any bit of GPU, where our strategy, use it all.
Totally.
And that usually has thermal implications if we're using it for a long time. But it's strange. I actually haven't seen the display dim once, which is, I guess the heatsink is really making a difference.
I don't know what magic they're using, but getting sustained throughput, incredible.
Yeah. It's all that copper in the Apple logo.
Must be.
Must be.
Must be the secret. And what about the Apple Pencil Pro? Because I am so intrigued by the fact that you can now program multiple gestures. So in addition to the double tap, you have the squeeze, and also the barrel roll. Now, I'm not an artist. It's not the kind of feature that I would ever take advantage of, really.
Sure.
But you must know what Procreate users do with it. And so I kind of wanted to know what the reaction has been like.
Yeah, it's been actually pretty huge. And the reason is, a lot of our customers, some of them have come from those Cintiq environments where they have, those larger pencils, multiple buttons and barrel roll.
Right.
So a lot of those customers, we had some really hard-hitting professionals who are like, look, I love what you guys are doing, but it doesn't have barrel roll, so I can't use it because all of my setup is for kind of mimicking. If you have a flat brush, you can move your brush to get a thin line or a thick line. And so it's a very fast way to move. And so when this came out, it was pretty huge. The creative community were really excited to see that. But what's interesting is, from our perspective, is what else we could do with it, because it's such an interesting new mechanic. So in Procreate Dreams, we hooked up the barrel roll to one of our new features, which is called performing. So that's one of the new features that allows anyone to animate, right? You just hit the record button and just make some motion. But with the Apple Pencil, we can move and rotate at the same time. And it's just so nice. The first time we rigged it up and we did a quick animation, it was like, oh, that's the way it's got to be. So it's unlocking not just the traditional things that the customers have been asking for. There's this whole other kind of new direction that we can head in with this new interaction. Yeah.
Really interesting. And Michael, I want to ask you about some of the APIs that you're using to do the animation, because we have a lot of developers in the audience of AppStories, and I'm sure they're curious about, are you using Metal or are you using something else? What kind of things are you using to get this kind of performance out of the iPad?
It's a pretty straightforward story of, actually we use an absolute ton of C code of our own and an absolute ton of Metal. Anything that can be done on Metal, we have
I figured it was probably Metal.
Oh, yes. We have at least 5 rendering guys. Metal is very much our bread and butter.
Yeah, because a lot of people think, I think a lot of people think about Metal in terms of games, right?
Totally.
I mean, because a lot of game developers are using that, but there are a lot of other applications, and I think that Procreate Dreams is a really great example of that.
Yeah,
especially the new engine. There's a lot more compute this time, and we offload anything at all possible to the GPU, and it's really allowed us to get some really great performance.
So in terms of what was announced at the keynote on Monday, is there anything in particular that caught your eye that might be something you can use in the app going forward?
The main thing for us is there was a great a small update to Metal where we can control residency, which will allow us to remove some little bits of lag from our app, but that was probably the main one.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Lots of...
Now, this is probably a tricky question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How do you feel, and obviously you making Procreate and Dreams, which are incredible tools for people making art, how do you feel about generative art?
It is a good question.
And do you think there's a place for it as maybe some kind of companion utility in your apps?
It's a very good question, and I might answer it in a few ways. I think generative images are here to stay. Clearly, they're here to stay. But there's not much value in generative images. We ascribe value to things that are generally rare or take a long time to make. With human-made art, it's a very, very different kind of type of art. I kind of like what Apple were doing with some of the, send a birthday card or whatever, because that kind of makes sense. There's not really a lot of value ascribed to that. But from our perspective, especially what's happening with some of the other products out there, you've got a lot of copyrighted material that's being kind of used. And so from our perspective, there are companies doing that and they're doing their thing. But we've decided that what we want to talk about is self-mastery. And let me talk about that a little bit because, I like Metallica. I like listening to Metallica. But sometimes I might want to pick up a guitar and learn Metallica. Mm-hmm. And that's very, very different. And I think the human condition for wanting to learn new skills, to express the humanity within us, I don't think that'll ever go away. So even with these new tools coming online, and they're clearly here to stay, I think it will not erase the human within us. I think it'll just be another tool in the tool set. But it's very interesting how Apple's approached it. They've certainly given a good storyline to how it might be used. But it's a very hot topic in the graphics industry, as I'm sure you're all aware.
Very much so.
And that is a very good answer, so thank you.
No problem.
I couldn't agree more. Also, Metallica is a great band. So
yeah. Oh, yeah. We're probably the same vintage, Federico, for music of our generation.
Absolutely. So before I let you go, let me ask you what's next for Procreate Dreams?
Oh, so much. When we launched Procreate Dreams, there was a few features there that we felt just weren't quite right. So we're just holding them back and we want to keep working on them. So this year there's a big Procreate Dreams update. And there's so much, we worked on that product for 5 years. So there's such a deep animation core. There's so much in that product that will be surfacing over the next couple of years. So lots of new features coming this year and a long roadmap. If you look at Procreate, when we started out, it was pretty bare bones, but we continued to update it. And it's the same trajectory for Procreate Dreams.
Excellent, excellent. Well, congratulations again on the ADA.
Thank you so much.
Really great to see you, and it's great to meet you in person. I always
Likewise,
enjoy.
John.
Yes, so thanks for joining us on AppStories.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, John.
All right, we are going to round out our interviews today on AppStories by speaking to a couple of students from the Swift Student Challenge who are distinguished winners. Apple this year did things a little differently. There is a category of Swift Student Challenge winners who are the distinguished winners who are here on campus at Apple Park and got to do a lot of interesting activities all throughout the week during WWDC, which we're going to hear a little bit more about, I think. But I want to introduce to you now Dezmond Blair and Adelaide Humez. How are you?
Hello. I'm fine.
Good.
Thank you.
Very good, very good.
All right. Well, I want to ask you both, first off, what it was like to meet Tim Cook and demo your apps for him. Maybe Dezmond, could you start?
Yeah, of course. Actually, I was in the middle of the demo with Susan. We were actually introduced as that would be the person that we were demoing to was Susan Prescott, who's the leader of the Swift Student Challenge. And so I'd already begun my presentation. I was going off my script in my head. All of a sudden, she's like, "Stop." I'm like, "Oh man, did I do something wrong? Did I mess up? Did I say something bad?" She was like, "Nope, we have a special guest coming in. You got to start all over." I seen him come in the room. Everything I had scripted in my head, completely gone. I was like, "Oh geez, I have to do everything I can to, just make this a good conversation between us."
Sure.
So it was really exciting. It felt like an honor to, have that ability to meet and demo my app to him. I just tried to make it feel as natural as possible at that point.
Awesome. How about you, Adelaide?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like, he was the first, so he had the most surprise, but I was one of the last ones to present the app. So I just I was preparing everything and I was just seeing Tim Cook arriving. I was like, what? So I kind of started coming, but it was very special and a very good surprise because it's nobody just knew it. So
that's fantastic.
Cool.
No, that's great to hear. I mean, I haven't met Tim Cook, so you guys got that on me, definitely.
I wanted to ask you, starting with Adelaide, what's the experience been like at Apple Park for WWDC this week? Is it your first time? And what are your thoughts in general about the event?
It's my first time actually in the US at all. So
wow.
So it was a huge discovery of everything. But at Apple, it was something. I used already to know to watch the announcement and everything. But it's a completely different story to just be here with all the people just cheering at a calculator app being announced. So it was very cool. And yeah, we had we had a huge planning, and it was so cool being here with everyone in the moment and visiting Apple Park too, which is a beautiful place. So yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Dezmond?
My first time out in California, and to see Apple Park and all its beauty, oh my gosh, it was amazing. I'd never experienced anything quite like this, honestly. So it felt like really, really great to not only get the recognition from Apple and to meet all these wonderful people. It felt really special.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, Dezmond, what kind of inspired you to take on the Swift Student Challenge in the first place?
Yeah, so I graduated about 2 years ago with my associates in programming. I couldn't find a job, and so I transitioned to IT. Through there, I found out that wasn't really my passion, and I found out about what's called the Apple Developer Academy. This is a 10-month course. The first in North America is offered in Detroit, Michigan, where I'm from. And so through that program, I was able to kind of find my path in iOS development. They introduced the Swift Student Challenge, and so I figured I would do something great. My app is about mountain biking. I love mountain biking, and my idea behind it was that I wanted to bring everyone on a bike ride with me. People who can't experience the beauty of nature and the trails. I wanted them to go ahead and join me. So I put you in an AR environment where you can join me on a bike ride.
Oh, that's really cool. I grew up in Michigan, in Ann Arbor, so
Nice.
I know there's a lot of great mountain biking that can be done in Michigan. That's really cool. Tell me a little bit more about the academy, because those have been opened up over the years in a whole bunch of different countries. And as you said, Detroit was the first one in North America. What was it like going through that program?
It's been really great. I actually graduate later this month.
Okay.
June 28th is my graduation date. And it was just such a wonderful experience. The whole time you're collaborating with so many great developers. We have an amazing team of mentors and facilitators from Apple that will, come in and actually judge some of our projects. We do about 6 challenges throughout the course of 10 months. And so we're building apps constantly, continuing our learning, continuing our education. And it's just a really, really great environment to be in, especially as an iOS developer, being around so many different passionate people. It feels really good, and it's a great environment to just learn and grow.
Sounds like it. How about you, Adelaide? What inspired you to get involved in the Swift Student Challenge?
Yeah, different story actually, because I'm not at all in the Apple Developer Academy. So I'm just in high school still. So I'm homeschooled. So I had a lot of time like figuring out what I may also work on for personal projects, and actually was already into app development, and I heard about the Student Challenge. So I actually had a lot of ideas, but the one I picked at the end was just something I just wanted because I just had the idea and I was like, this is it. So I did the Dream Journal app. It's not as beautiful as an idea of biking, but I think it's pretty cool. So yeah, and I just worked on it, and it was very cool actually. Just working on it, and of course what I had at the end was just so cool. So
very cool.
She showed me before we got in here, and I just want to say it's a very, very beautiful app. Don't discredit yourself.
I need to see your app because I didn't had to like.
I promise yours looks much better. Right?
Yeah. Oh no, I'm sure not.
I wanted to ask you both. What do you think of the announcements of Apple Intelligence this week at WWDC? Sort of, what are your general thoughts about it? And is that something that maybe you could consider implementing in one of your future apps? Starting with you, Dezmond, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really, really great thing that they're doing with Apple Intelligence now. I don't want to say they're a bit late to the game, but the changes that they are bringing are a lot different than how other people are implementing AI already. And so I feel like it's going to bring a lot of convenience to how we use our phones entirely. A lot of the demos that they were showing just created an amazing boost in productivity between just making appointments on your calendar and stuff like that. As far as using it in my applications, I've not really thought of any use cases quite yet. However, like I said, I'm still going to continue working on it and learn more about Apple Intelligence the more that we get fed.
Nice. What about you, Adelaide?
Yeah, I agree totally on the fact that all the stuff they announced with Apple Intelligence is a very different, like more mature, I'd say, slightly from other competitors that just stuffed AI in their products just to say AI. But yeah, actually, I have like ideas for implementing it in my apps because they're as it's like a journal. It's just so much easier to just say, Siri, I had a dream last night, and tell your dream, and it's just logged in already. So I have a lot of ideas about it. So yeah, it's very interesting, and I just can't wait to get into the APIs and play around with it. So yeah, I can't wait.
It is definitely hard during WWDC because it's like you hear about these things, but you don't get into them really deeply yet until you have a chance to kind of go home and digest everything and think about it. But let me ask you this, Adelaide, what's kind of next for you in terms of just your developer journey?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's like I already had like probably the best experience of my entire life in app development. So it's kind of hard to just go on the top of the hill and just say, all right, what's next? So, but I think for now I'll just continue working on my little projects because it's on the App Store right now. So I need to do little updates and continue working on it. So yeah, and yeah, maybe I will follow up with schools and professionalize it. So so yeah, hopefully become a more professional developer and continue working on cool projects.
Excellent. How about you, Dezmond?
Well, thankfully, actually, after winning the Swift Student Challenge, I was welcomed to a position as a Apple Foundations mentor. So at a local college near Detroit, there is a Apple Foundations program. It's a 1-month course where they're teaching app development to college students. And thankfully, I was taken on as a coding mentor. And so now I'm going to take a lot of the stuff that I learned here and bring that now to my students back in my hometown.
Excellent. That's wonderful. Wonderful. Well, you know, it's been really great to meet both of you, and congratulations on winning the award. It's a really big deal, and I'm glad you've both had such a great week. It's you know, it's wonderful. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Oh. All right, everybody. That's it for this episode of AppStories. I want to thank our sponsor again. That's 1Password. You can find me and Federico over at macstories.net. Federico and I are both on Mastodon. Just go to vidici.macstories.net or johnvorhees.macstories.net. Follow us there. We're also on Threads and Instagram. Federico is at Viticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHEES. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.